Hey guys, welcome back to Mika Reaction Reviews, where we react and review to things on the internet. And today we're returning to Dr. Jordan Peterson, and the title of the video is Jordan Peterson on Homeschooling. This was uploaded 4 years ago and it has 1.5 million views and 27,000 likes. One of the reasons why I decided to react to this particular Jordan Peterson video is because I've heard people speak, saying that there's kind of like this mass exodus out of public school systems because they've long been an indoctrination system or program. The education system, or the public education system, has long been known that it was created and designed to create worker bees, get young people used to the idea of a schedule, getting up at a certain time, following rules, following orders, being disciplined, and listening to authority, being rewarded for certain things and stuff like that, like a paycheck or a bonus or a raise. But now a lot of people feel like the schools has sort of evolved sort of to this idealistic or ideological, I can't say the word. They're indoctrinating students into a certain ideology, especially in universities, but it's sort of trickled down all the way down to sort of primary or elementary school, where they're teaching, first graders about trans issues, where that's not maybe something they need to be exposed to at that moment, or a conversation that should be between parent and child, and that a lot of teachers are just sort of overstepping their boundaries as teachers and thinking it's their job to raise your kids or teach your kids morals or, again, idealistic beliefs rather than the parent. And so a lot of people are starting to pull their kids out of schools or put them in charter schools, private schools, or homeschooling. I always said if I had kids, I don't know if I will, but if I did, homeschooling would definitely be a big option for me. But of course, unfortunately, that's not for everybody. But anyway, we're gonna listen to what Dr. Jordan Peterson has to say about homeschooling. So we're gonna get right into it, but before you do, if you like this type of videos, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell to get your notifications when I do upload. All of that really does help with the algorithm, guys. And if you want to support the channel further, you can donate. My PayPal link is in the description box below and also in the comment section. Of course, it helps, but you don't have to. You can just like, comment, subscribe. And another great way to support this channel is you can join my brand new membership program, different levels, different tiers, different perks, or you can visit my brand new merch shop. And I want to give a great big shout out to James Brown for your generous donation. I very much appreciate you. Thank you. Other than that, guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. All right, here we go.
I don't want my young children indoctrinated with dangerous ideas. And as time marches on, I trust public education less and less. I know that you have strong thoughts on the danger of the devouring Oedipal mother who harms her child by protecting them. And that's certainly not what I aspire to. I wonder if, in spite of your idea that kids need to become tough and learn to slay dragons, if you have anything good to say about the idea of homeschooling.
Well, I don't have anything bad to say about it. I do know that the Quebec government has recently taken moves to make it much more difficult for people to homeschool their children. And it's not like 5 years, 15 years ago, I would have presumed that the vast majority of people who were homeschooling their children were to be viewed with skepticism initially. I'm not so sure about that anymore. For example, I was sent a poster today. Someone sent me this link that they found in a local junior high school, and one of the media pieces that were recommended on this poster was a movie called Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Now, I thought that was a terrible movie, even though I'm perfectly capable of enjoying bizarre movies. But so it's a bizarre movie, that's for sure, but I also thought it was a terrible, bitter movie. Terrible and bitter. Those are separate. A movie can be bitter and be quite great, but it was a terrible movie and it was a bitter movie. But I can tell you one bloody thing about that movie. It's not required viewing for 12-year-old kids. That's for sure. So I think you have increasing reason to be skeptical of the public education system. I also looked at the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario's guidelines for education from kindergarten to grade 8, and what that is in essence, and I think I will do a video about it in the relatively near future, is a blueprint for transforming children into social justice warriors. It basically says that. It's like you don't have to be a conspiracy theory to read that. I mean, we have social justice tribunals in Ontario. And so the idea is, well, if you're going to get your children, if you're going to get people to, what would you say, favor equity properly, well, then you better start teaching them while they're young.
Okay, so stopping it there. One of the things that I disapprove of the public education system, at least in the United States, is that the criteria or the curriculum that students have to follow is created by the government. So it's not the teachers that are teaching your children, even though they're physically there and are using the curriculum to teach their children, but the stuff that they're learning is actually from the government. So the government is teaching your children, not the teachers, not the school, unless again it's a charter school, maybe even a private school. So that's one of the things I don't like. I don't like the idea of the government being in control of what my kids can learn, or what anybody's kids can learn at that matter. I don't have children right now, maybe never will be, but still I don't like the idea of it. I never heard of this movie, Hedwig and the Angry Itch. If anybody's ever seen that movie, let me know in the comment section below. I also like the fact that Dr. Peterson can very much admit that, you know, he changed his mind on things, or his beliefs evolved on something. Like he said 15 years ago, if someone said they wanted to homeschool their children, that he would look at them with skepticism. Not maybe that they are bad parents, but maybe they wouldn't know or have the knowledge to properly homeschool their kids or educate their students. But now, because homeschooling has become more of a normalized thing, I think there's a lot more tools available to parents who want to homeschool their kids, a lot more people out there, experts, to give parents knowledge on the proper way to homeschool a child. I think back then, homeschooling kind of consists of like the older sibling teaching the younger sibling, which I don't think is appropriate to parenticize your children. In some countries and cultures, they have no choice, but I don't really like the idea of that. But so now there's more access to things to teach people how the proper way to homeschool a child. And so I think it's evolved from what it used to be 15, 20 years ago. And of course, it really is not surprising that Quebec would make it harder for people to homeschool their kids. I do think the government would always crack down on people who are trying to detach from the system. It's the same thing with tiny house movement or living off the grid. Do you know there's parts of the United States where it's illegal to collect your own rainwater? Yeah, safety, you know, safety and health. So I think there'll always be an issue like that, because I just think the government prefers people to be attached to the system because they have more control over them, over what they say, how they live, their ideologies and stuff like that. And yeah, the idea that curriculum is basically teaching children how to be social justice warriors. If you look at any sort of historical context of like people like authoritarian regimes, like I forgot the name, Mao, I'm not really sure, the one that was in China, one of the ways he sort of radicalized society is that he started with children, and it started in the education system. So you radicalize the children to basically rat out their own parents, sort of spread the message. And you see that now with children on TikTok, where they're going TikTok to like rat out their parents for being Trump supporters, or rat out their parents for being racist, and they're getting rewarded for these things. But if you talk about these things, of course you sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist, but there's a lot of evidence out there to point to that. Anyway, let's continue with the video.
It's like, maybe not. So now, you ask that question properly, because you say, well, the terrible education system, the wonderful mother homeschooling, right? That's the danger. It's like, no, because it might not be the wonderful mother homeschooling. It might be the pathological mother using the pathology of the education system as an excuse to get her talons into her children, right? Because that's certainly equally possible, or perhaps even more possible, because at least in the public education system, there's some necessity for consensus. So that's something that you have to be very aware of and work to prevent, right? And so I would say, if you're going to do that, probably best not to do it on your own. And it's like you need a board of advisors or something like that, and so maybe it can't just be you.
Stopping it there, sorry. But like, yeah, like I said, there's a lot of tools in the people's parents' access to want to homeschool their kids. There's whole communities that get together and have like homeschool communities where they will all pinch their money in to be able to hire a teacher, or hire a tutor, or hire a educational experts, and have all the kids go to one person's home or another and learn from that person, or they all get together to test together and stuff like that. Like, there are a lot of communities out there that now homeschool. You don't have to homeschool on your own, and I 100% agree with him. Unless you are an educator in yourself, unless you really are going to put the time and effort into is to properly teach your kids and also make sure they have access to a social life, then it really shouldn't just be you trying to sort of figure it out in the dark. You have access to a lot of tools to help you properly homeschool kids these days. Anyway, let's continue.
When you have to figure out, well, what is the aim? And how are you going to manage that? And what makes you think you can do it? Even if it's being done badly publicly, what makes you think you could do it better? I mean, my general advice is, and people have asked me this, in fact, I had a conversation with the guy who was tiling my backyard this morning about something his son had said to him that he was taught at school recently, which really made the tiler, who had come from a rather authoritarian country, step back on his heels and think, I'm not so sure I should be sending my kid to public school anymore, and maybe I shouldn't be living in Toronto even.
Because again, a lot of these authoritarian dictatorship regimes got propaganda to spread through their countries was using the youth and using the education system. So somebody who comes from that country would be easier for them to recognize what's going on. You even that one woman, I forget her name, but she's quite famous now, and she escaped from North Korea, and she very much gives a lot of speeches, and she has said herself when she went to university it felt the same way. So of course, a lot of people who don't come from those regimes and don't know that history likes to think that everyone who says that you're repeating history, that is all propaganda, or it's all conspiracy theories or whatever, or you're reaching or you're being hyperbolic. But things don't happen just automatically, you know what I mean? Things are slow to progress. You know, this whole slow boiling pot thing with the frog, before you know it, you're like looking around like, holy shit, how did we get here? Oh yeah, because there was a bunch of people below you going, hey, the water is boiling, and you just yell, shut up, conspiracy theorist. All right, let's continue.
In Toronto even, you know, but my general advice is keep an eye on your kids and discuss with them what they're learning, and help equip them with the tools to not only to articulate their own viewpoint in response to what they're being taught. Now, the problem is you might not have the time nor the ability to do that. That's no simple thing. And increasingly, if you're unwilling to have your children participate in what is increasingly indoctrination and not education, thanks to, in no small part, to the Ontario Institute of the Studies on Education, which is an institution that I particularly despise, because I think that almost all it does now is produce indoctrinators of children. It's not an easy problem to solve. So more power to you wanting to put your children in a situation where they're not being indoctrinated. But the alternative is very, very complicated and difficult. So, yeah.
Alright guys, that was Dr. Peterson on homeschooling. Yeah, I see what he's saying as well. I think it can be difficult on a lot of different levels. Again, if you don't have the tools, the know-how, the time, or the finances to be able to homeschool your kids, and you just try to kind of do it anyway, you might do it improperly and end up harming your children in the future anyway. Or you might, take them out of one indoctrination system and put them in another. Parents can be really overbearing when it comes to their own belief systems, and it can turn toxic. I do think it's more of a parent's right or duty to be able to instill what they believe into their children, but there's a balance to it, and you don't want to do it to a certain way where your children just completely turns away from their teachings because you're being too pushy with it. I also agree with him when just instilling into your children strong ethics, strong morals, strong principles, strong values, and also giving them the tools and a mindset to be a critical thinker and just an independent-minded person, where when they do get into these situations, they can actually think for themselves and not fall into the trap of indoctrination. Anyway, guys, that was it. That was Dr. Peterson on homeschooling. Let me know what you think about what he said, what I said. Are you thinking of homeschooling your children? If you have children, do you think homeschooling is a great idea, or do you think it's a waste of freaking time? Do you think communities should invest more into charter schools, or do you think communities should stand up to the public school system and make sure they, eliminate these sort of indoctrinating critical race theory, and these just very woke progressive programs out of their school. Like maybe if enough parents stand up to them, they will change it. It has happened in some states, and also, but if you pull enough kids out of public schools will die. They'll crumble if they don't have enough students. And so if they see enough parents pulling their kids out of schools, they might just change anyway because they don't want to lose their funding. Also, when it comes to university, I'm a really big fan of not telling every child they have to go to college or they have to go to university, because I do think a lot of them have just become indoctrination programs. Unless you are going to be like a lawyer or a surgeon or architect or engineer or something like that, I think you don't necessarily have to go to university to learn most of the other things you want to learn. Even if they eventually go to college, I think sort of encouraging your children to go live life first. Go travel, go get a job, go try to start a business, get a trade. Because the more life experience they have in their belt, the more they've been able to build up their own identity, the less likely they're going to fall into other indoctrination traps, because they already know who they are. They're not clamoring for acceptance and validation. That's why I just think it's a good idea to let kids take hiatuses from education instead of being like, no, you gotta go to college, you gotta go to university. I mean, it's 2022. There's been enough proof these days that you don't need a college education to be successful in this world. And if you do get a college education, you most likely have to get a doctor or a master's for it to even matter, and you are going to be swamped in student debt. So that's my 2 cents, guys. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that button to get notifications when I do upload. All of that really does help with the algorithm, guys. And if you support the channel further, you can donate. My PayPal link is in the description box below and also in the comment section. Of course, it helps, but you don't have to. You just like, comment, subscribe. And another great way to support this channel is either join my brand new membership program, different levels, different tiers, different perks, or you can visit my brand new merch shop. Great statement tees and mugs that show the world what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and type of music you're into. And I also have a second travel vlog channel. I travel as a lifestyle. I live abroad. If you'd like to know where I am in the world, you can go to the description box below and also in the comment section. Hit the link, go subscribe to my travel vlog channel, and or follow me on my travel Instagram. My stories is usually what's most up to date. And you guys have an amazing day. Bye.